people who are re-entering the market and facing their finances for the first time and haven't sat down to even look at their budget in years or even are doing it for the first time. And the emotions that comes with that, the realization of where their money is going, all of that. So it's not just the tech platform. For us, it's how do we educate you so that you can make the confident decisions this time, next time, or when you're making some other investment decision.
You mentioned before that you have a lot of clients that are single women with children, often come out of a divorce. I'm just wondering, what are some of the challenges that they're facing when it comes to getting onto the housing ladder?
I find with women who have been through a divorce, they often might have the deposit from any sort of divorce settlement and things like that. But servicing the loan is where they come into challenges because they're not earning enough income. We're finding that that is a challenge, is they have the deposit, they can't service the loan. Then there's obviously the emotional journey that they're on if they've just come out of the relationship and, managing your finances and big decisions through all of that. There's different barriers, but I would say the most common one that I've come across is the ability to service a loan.
Is there anything else that you think would be really important for our audience to take away from today?
I would say don't wait. If there are women on the call who are humming and hawing about home ownership, like I said, the reality is prices are going up every year. Every year you wait across the country, that's 20 to 70K that you're missing out on in capital gain potential. If you do decide it is the way, now is the time to act. Otherwise, we'll be chatting in a year's time, prices would have gone up another 5%, 7%, and you'd still be sitting here trying to figure out, should I buy? Let's make that decision now.
What does it take to be a financially empowered woman? And what can financially empowered women do together to change the world? A shocking statistic is that around 400,000 women in Australia are at risk of homelessness. And the cause of this is the lack of education about how to build a financial foundation, starting even before we first enter the workforce and well into our retirement years. My name's Dion Payne, and I'm the founder of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. I'm passionate about ending homelessness, and as part of that passion, I chose to look at the systemic barriers that are causing homelessness for women in the first place. The Financially Empowered Women podcast is designed to bring you the best experts from around the world to increase your financial know-how and give you practical and women-specific tips to overcome the challenges you might be facing, such as how to negotiate a better salary, demystifying super, or how to navigate a separation and ensure the assets are distributed fairly. My role is to provide you with the best information out there to change your trajectory and become a financially empowered woman, because you deserve it, and the world needs you more than ever to own your worth and help others to do the same.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Financially Empowered Women podcast. My name's Dion Payne. I'm your host for today, and in the studio with me right now is Jeng. Let me tell you a little bit about Jemi. Jeng is the founder of Penny, a home buying and financial empowerment platform helping women take confident steps towards property ownership and long-term financial security. With a career spanning law, policy, and tech, she's worked across government tackling complex social and policy challenges before turning her focus to women's financial independence. Welcome, Jemi.
Hi, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. Now, I'm really curious about the name Penny. Where did that come from?
I get this question all the time, and I'd love to say it was very deep and meaningful, but the reality is, look, penny is, you've got the currency and the reference to the monetary value, and then you've got the reference to the female name as well. And it followed naturally to call a female focused tech product and financial product Penny in my mind. And look, it's caught on. I get called Penny myself a lot, and I'm adopting that personality and persona. But It's a name that people know are familiar with, even though the currency is necessarily going out of use. Yeah, it's something that's easy for people to just identify and know what we're talking about.
That's so cool. And it's funny that you said that about people calling you Penny, because I really had to think in the introduction. It's Jemi. It's Jemi. It's Jemi.
I'm just gonna have to change my name at this point, but it's not a bad name.
No, it's not a bad name to have. But I love what you said about taking on the persona of Penny. So tell me a little about the persona of Jemi as a young girl growing up, and what led you into starting Penny and taking on the persona of Penny.
That's such a big question. Look, I would say I've been very probably observant to money patterns from a young age. So seeing the dynamics between adults, between young people, between everything, and the power of money and what it does, the ability to make choices and decisions from a small scale, whether it's the candy I want, to a big scale of I want to get out of a relationship and move forward. And so having the financial security and stability and independence on your own, to me, has always been associated with that sense of agency and that sense of choice. So it's something I observed from a young age. And then as you grow up, you start to see similar patterns amongst your friendship groups. Friends going through certain relationship dynamics and all of that kind of stuff. And for me, the question that I kept on coming back to is why? Why aren't we feeling more confident or don't have the means to have that independence as much as women? And the reality is the lower earning capacity, or I should say the pay gap, the lower savings and investment over time, all of that compounds into bigger barriers as you get older. So for me, I guess I've always been conscious of the impact of money, how people are around money, how it impacts dynamics, how it impacts your choice and freedom. And I think all of that, seeing that at various stages throughout my life, seeing various women around me have struggles with it, that I just thought, this is a space I want to get involved in. I want to see what we can do in this space. And you know what? It's such a big problem that I feel like I could work on this for the rest of my life and we'd still have work to do. So yeah, that's really the background behind it.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful motivation. When you were talking, it made me think of my early childhood, and in terms of what I saw growing up, it was almost like, or the message was, it was quite virtuous to not think about money. And I can really see how that's played out in my life, and sort of in the lives of women that I knew then growing up. So I find it really interesting that our early beliefs and early attitudes are shaped by what's going on around us. So tell me a little bit about what Penny does, because it sounds almost like it's a financial empowerment a piece of work, rather than just the nuts and bolts of, here is what you do with money. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, you're spot on. I mean, there's a lot of platforms out there that aim to do a similar thing in terms of supporting people through home ownership. I mean, the big banks have their own version with Combank, and then you've got a few other startups that are playing in the space. But our point of difference is really in that education piece. A lot of the research that we've done over the years consistently shows women either falling behind because of literacy or falling behind because of a lack of confidence in making those big decisions, whether it's home ownership and investment. And so our mission is, how do we equip you with the education, the resources, the tools, the networks as well? I think that's the other thing that people forget, is like accessing financial advice isn't really accessible for a lot of people, in particular women, whether it's the cost, whether it's not knowing who to go to when, all of that kind of stuff. And that's what we've built. Our platform takes you end to end, connecting you with different people, taking you through each step, helping you work out your budget. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that we've seen is, especially we have a new program out, and I'll tell you about that in a second, but people who are re-entering the market and facing their finances for the first time and haven't sat down to even look at their budget in years, or even are doing it for the first time. And the emotions that comes with that, the realization of where their money is going, all of that. So it's not just the tech platform. For us, it's how do we educate you so that you can make the confident decisions this time, next time, or when you're making some other investment or other decision. So we've got the platform, like I said, that takes you end to end and breaks that all down. And we've also got a new program that we launched earlier in the year. It's a 6-week program that helps you work through all of your finances and get home loan ready. So the whole aim of this program is about focusing on your finances so that you're in a good position to approach the bank for pre-approval or a loan when you're ready. So that's really our point of difference. And obviously the focus on women for the obvious reasons. I mean, we know the tech industry is dominated, particularly in the upper tiers by men. Same with finance industry. How do we take the reins as women? I mean, our entire partner network is women across the industry as well, and business owners across the industry. So yeah, we want to see women win effectively.
That's really beautiful. And you made a point before about financial advisors. The perception is that they're very expensive. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that a lot of the financial advisors at the moment are male, who, bless their cotton socks, they don't have the lived experience of women. So they don't have the lived experience of the gender pay gap and not necessarily staying home to raise a family, and the lack of confidence that can bring, even though deep down as women we know that it's one of the most beautiful things that we can do, but at the same time the pressure around society is that if you're not out there earning and being productive, then what are you doing, right? So there's all of that. So if you can't be what you can't see, and so if you're looking to sort out your finances and you're not seeing women in the industry that you can relate to, or if you're not seeing people that you can relate to, then it can be quite confronting. So I think that's a big challenge that the financial advice industry has. So I like what it is that you're doing with your platform, because I can see that it's a very with the partner network that you're talking about being women that have probably had that lived experience as well, it would just be a very non-confrontational way to go.
Absolutely. And look, we have a lot of single mothers, for example, in our customer base, women who've come out of a divorce, are trying to find their feet, get security for themselves and their children. And so for us, it's really important to be able to be accessible to these women. And part of that is, in some cases, giving them another woman who has been through a similar experience, or, is just, I guess, directly or indirectly may have observed things like that, and just a bit more sensitive to the nuances of what's involved and the various considerations and the lived experience of it all. So that's what we want to give our clients. We know that there's so many barriers for women across the financial spectrum, and wherever we can try and reduce some of these barriers and make it more accessible is our aim and our mission. Yeah, it's been a big job.
I bet. So, I mean, you've got a education aspect, you've got a tech platform. There's a lot going on in that. What are some of the challenges that you faced in getting this all up and running? Because at the end of the day, you're an entrepreneur as well, right? So yeah, tell us about your journey on that.
Look, I would say the biggest part is the funding part. Because we are not the traditional or typical big tech company that's running fast and hard and all about profit and all of that kind of stuff, we're probably not as appealing to the investors as those putting those numbers out there. In saying that, mind you, I think we're definitely going to achieve our 10x return. And so I'm not worried about that. I'm like, if that's more money in my pocket, that's okay. But at the end of the day, definitely the funding has been a gap. We are a fully self-funded business. And so, the last few years of building that takes quite a lot of capital. And we are seeing great traction over the last couple of months, especially as we've started our advertising campaigns and stuff like that. But yes, I would say financially, that's been the biggest barrier, because once we with funding, as you know, it then allows us to be really focused with our marketing or really focused with our service offering or anything like that. So that's where our efforts are now, is the prioritization, the focus, while we try and get more capital in the door so that we can keep growing and scaling this, because we'd love to work beyond just home ownership. I mean, home ownership is just one aspect of the financial journey. Whether we're talking about investing, whether we're talking about just basic money management, whether we're talking about family planning, for example, which we know disproportionately impacts women financially. And so all of these areas where I just think women, unfortunately, haven't been supported in the way that they should or could be, is what Petty is trying to do, is fill that gap.
If you've been watching the news lately, it's easy to feel a sense of despair. Between power-hungry global leaders and absolute chaos and division, it can feel like things are spiraling out of control. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and just to have a sense of powerlessness. But there is a way to push back. We can stop looking at what they are doing and start looking at what we can do. At Women for Homes, we firmly believe that where we put our money is making a choice for the kind of world that we want to live in. Our mission is powerful: to mobilise 1 million women to invest $5,000 to end homelessness by 2030, whilst being financially empowered along the way. It's practical, it's tangible, it's something that we can do now, and it's something that we can do to take our power back. Join us at www.womenforhomes.com. That's women4homes.com.
And you mentioned before that you have a lot of clients that are single women with children, often come out of a divorce. I'm just wondering, what are some of the challenges that they're facing when it comes to getting onto the housing ladder?
Oh, so many. Look, I would say, obviously, there's the one, and this isn't universal for everyone, so I'm not making generalizations, but in general, when we're looking at the statistics with women, the literacy is the one issue, is just getting onto your finances, knowing where your money's going on a day-to-day. And then I find with women who have been through a divorce, they often might have the deposit from any sort of divorce settlement and things like that. But servicing the loan is where they come into challenges, because they're not earning enough income. Maybe they're part-time raising kids, or, there's been some sort of career disruption that just has impacted their ability to work full-time job in their preferred career or trained career. So we're finding that is a challenge, is they have the deposit, they can't service the loan. So we're working with them to think about, how do you boost your income? What are some strategies we can think through here? Your disposable income, where are some areas we could potentially cut down? I know it's the area nobody wants to touch. It's like, let me just earn more money. And it's like, no, well, look, that's one way, but we also need to look at where we can do some cutting in the budget as well, where there's space. I say that, I know jokingly, but there's some people, the reality is the income's just so low that they don't even have that much space. So it's things like that, I would say, is the biggest thing. Then there's obviously the emotional journey that they're on, if they've just come out of the relationship, and managing your finances and big decisions through all of that. So there's different barriers, but I would say the most common one that I've come across is the ability to service a loan. And I'd love to see some more lenders being more flexible in this space. Like we know, particularly when it comes to loans and stuff like that, women are even better at repaying them. And it's just about being given the opportunity to be in a position to buy a home and put a roof over your head and your kid's head.
One of the things that I hear most often is if I've got the money to pay my rent and I can show that I'm paying my rent and I've been really consistent in that and paid on time every time, then why can't I get a loan where the mortgage repayments are the same?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the criteria and that the banks and the lenders apply is very different to when you're renting. And they're thinking not just about your ability to pay this year or next year, they're thinking about your ability to pay in 25 years or whatever, long term. And if you aren't able to show that sort of stability and security in amongst all of the criteria that they factor in, it's going to be very hard. And that's the reality. I mean, we appreciate that there's only so much we can do in supporting women through the journey. At the end of the day, at this point in time, and I want to advocate for change in this space as well, there's some pretty strict criteria for a lot of lenders, even with pensions. That's the other thing. We've come across a lot of clients who are on a pension, and there are lenders who, even though it's income, that can be factored towards your ability to repay a loan. There are some lenders who just will not work with people on a pension, or the criteria are a lot harder. So yeah, those are unfortunately some of the realities that we can't do anything about. But in terms of trying to prepare you, trying to get you in the best position you can get yourself in financially, whether that's through Penny or through our partner network, is our aim. And look, this is something we tell clients all the time. If homeownership isn't for you, that's great. Like if you get to the point where you decide, look, at the end of the day, I've looked at all these numbers and I cannot make this work, or this is not the best decision for me, another investment is a better decision for me, we are supportive of that. At the end of the day, we just want you to make that decision confidently, whether that's with us or with someone else.
Yeah, that's great, because it does seem that the media at the moment is very much portraying it's home ownership or nothing. You know, like it's you know, if you're not a homeowner and you're renting, then you're screwed basically. And yet that does ignore the reality of there are other options to make money.
Australia loves property. It's interesting because when I first got to Australia, when was it? I don't even know now, 2007. Back then, I noticed at the time, even with my partner and his family and stuff, their obsession with property, or their love for property, and similarly with their networks that they were operating in. And then as I've gotten more and more into Penny, I've just realized and the reality is property gives you a security that other investments don't. In some ways, it's a roof over your head. It's a roof over your children's head. And so it's not just the capital gain from the investment, it's the security and stability it gives you, which is why we advocate for home ownership. But in saying that, I mean, there's so many other investment options. I invest my money in other things, not just property. And so, look, there's money to be made. It just depends on where you're at. And the reality is property has consistently grown across Australia. We see it growing each year, 3 to 7%, in capital cities, even more. And so it's really important that, we're supporting people to understand the steps, understand the costs, understand what they're able to buy, and then make a decision, yes or no, this is for me or it's not for me.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things as well is there's the practical aspect of being able to purchase a property, but there's also the confidence and knowing that you can, and knowing that you can take those steps. So how does Penny help women, particularly where they come in and they don't have a lot of confidence in their ability, and that may be because of a relationship breakdown, or in a previous relationship where they didn't have control of the finances?
Yeah. So we do have some well-being support content on the platform itself. We've also, in the program, we do a lot of coaching. So weekly, we do coaching sessions. We check in to see that people have, done their assigned activities for the week, got to understand their finances. If they've got issues or blockers, we work through them and we coach them. So, what I'm finding is, especially for the single moms going through, it is an emotional journey. They do need, or oftentimes need, the extra emotional support because they're dealing with so much. And so we offer that through the program hands-on. We have some support in the app. And then we are building out our partner network as well, which has the financial advisors, has the brokers and buyer's agents, and we're building in coaches as well. So all of that is there and accessible, that people can access. I appreciate that sometimes cost can be a barrier for people, where we have a few subsidized spots that I do, but also in saying that, I mean, we've offered much lower rates for the services that we are offering so that they are accessible for the demographic of client that we are hoping to support. But yeah, in saying that, I mean, we also need to get the money in the door, and that's how we do it, is, offering some of our services, such as the 6 weeks where we take you step by step through everything, hold your hand, and coach you through it as you go through.
That sounds beautiful. Is there anything else that you think would be really important for us for our audience to take away from today?
I would say don't wait. If there are women on the call who are humming and hawing about homeownership, like I said, the reality is prices are going up every year. Every year you wait across the country, that's 20 to 70K that you're missing out on in capital gain potential. And, we are here to support you. If at the end of it you decide homeownership is not the way, great. But if you do decide it is the way, now is the time to act. There are some great government subsidies and programs out there at the moment that are a bit unprecedented, in my opinion, in terms of the supports available. I won't go into the impact that has on prices and all of that kind of stuff, but at the same, because there's always a debate about that. But at the same time, I know for me personally, my brother is somebody who took advantage of some of these government programs back in Canada at the time, and it was his entry into the market at a very young age, which he otherwise wouldn't have achieved. And so when I'm seeing similar programs here and even additional supports, I just get excited, because I'm like, now is the time. Let's get your finances in order. Let's get you started, help you with those first few steps so that you can keep going independently, if that's the way that you need to go. But yeah, let's get you started. I mean, otherwise, we'll be chatting in a year's time. Prices would have gone up another 5%, 7%, and you'd still be sitting here trying to figure out, should I buy? Let's make that decision now.
Yeah. And that debate, you just clarified something for me, the debate of the government schemes and house prices, because I always think, well, yes, prices are going to go up, but prices are going up anyway. So it just makes sense, if you can access that and access the support, then it's definitely something that's worth doing. I do remember the question I was going to ask you. In terms of the work that you are doing with Penny, what are some of the success stories that you're seeing with your clients?
Look, I think the ones that always touch me personally are the ones who start off. You see the lack of confidence. You see the tears. There's a lot of tears, a lot of emotion in it. And you realize this is more than just homeownership. There's a lot going on here. And so seeing those clients go from the tears to feeling confident, to saying, oh my God, this is the first time I've looked at my finances like this, or, and don't get me wrong, home ownership is a bit of a roller coaster ride because there's reality checks along the way. You might think, oh, I have the money and whatever, and then you look at your borrowing power and it's not quite as much as you want, and that gets you a bit down. And then it is a bit of a roller coaster. But in saying that, seeing people go from that lack of confidence, the insecurity, the questioning, the second guessing, to being able to make a decision confidently at the end of all of this, whether it's homeownership or not, is our aim, our mission. So in that way, I feel like we're achieving it, even if it's at a small scale at the moment, which is really exciting.
Yeah, well, congratulations on all the work that you're doing to help more women get into home ownership and be financially empowered. I think that this is probably the most important work that we can be doing, because I liken it to it's almost like we're in a race, and everybody's lining up at the 100-meter start line, or that's what we think. But some people are way ahead and are at 50 meters, and some people are way behind. So I see that the work that you're doing is really about leveling the playing field, so that there's more equality, particularly when it comes to home ownership and that financial security. So I really applaud you for what you're doing, and however we can support to help you get this message out there more, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And ditto to everything you said. I think it comes back to your first question around why I'm doing this. And it comes back to the choice, the agency. I feel like what we're empowering women with is the choice to live life on their own terms and to make decisions for themselves confidently without the pressure of finances holding them back. So yeah. And likewise, I love what you're doing with Women for Homes and, Financially Empowered Women podcast. All of it is in the same game. So I always consider women like yourself and businesses like yourself partners in the same mission.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right.
And for anybody that's loving what you're doing and wants to work with you, how can they get hold of you?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, Jemi Jeng, or you can also find us on our website, www.urpenny.com. We have a forums on there that you can contact me through. But like I said, LinkedIn is also another way through our business page or my personal page as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'll have all of that information in the show notes. So Jemi, thank you again. It's been so delightful, and speak soon.
You too. Take care.